Hello Game Boys and Game Girls, I'm the Game Boy Guru, and welcome to another pickups video. Got a chance to do a little bit of game hunting yesterday, but before I show you that, I want to show you one thing that I got in the mail. And of course I forgot to set it out and make it ready, but I ordered my second limited run games release, again for the PlayStation 4, and that is Caladrius Blaze, and I'm also going to be ordering the Raiden 5 physical edition that comes with a soundtrack. And so between Darius Burst Chronicle Savior, Caladrius Blaze, and Raiden 5, once those are all in hand, I'm going to have a lot of shmup action for the PS4. There are other PS4 games I'm looking forward to playing as well, such as Horizon Zero Dawn, Nier Automata, Neo, and a few others, but definitely the shmups are one of the main reasons that I'm kind of getting started with the collecting now before I even have the console. So let's look at yesterday's finds. First up is a couple things I got from a pawn shop, and so got World Championship cards for PlayStation 2. Not something I would typically grab, but this one's in good shape, and just one more to add to the pile. Also picked up a standalone copy of Infamous 2, and the PS3 version of Watch Dogs, and this happens to be a Walmart exclusive version with a bonus weapon and character skin. Now I don't know if that just means that it's programmed on the disc, or if it's via a code, and my guess is that code would already have been used. When I play it, I'll probably play it on the Wii U just because I bought that version first, but still kind of cool to have a variant like that that is specific. That was pawn shop number 1. Pawn shop number 2 yielded a few things. So we'll go through those real quick. A couple of PSP games. I got Pirates of Caribbean at World's End, and then I also picked up Silent Hill Origins. This one is missing the manual, and normally I would pass this up, but since this one has been a little bit harder to find, I'm hoping that maybe I can just source the manual somewhere, eBay or another online gaming web store, something, but I'll try and do that. Picked up a couple of 360 games. I got Meet the Robinsons, and also Harry Potter Years 5 through 7, and I have this for PlayStation 3 as well in the cardboard sleeve that actually was part of the PS3 bundle that I bought, along with Lego Batman 2 and Little Big Planet karting. And so I'll probably play it on the PS3 just because I know the PS3 is a little beefier machine, probably look a little cleaner on there, but cool to have nonetheless. One original Xbox game that caught my eye, and that was Kingdom Under Fire Heroes. I don't have any of these games yet, but I've heard good things about them, so we'll check that out. Also picked up Guitar Hero Encore Rocks the 80s. For some reason I thought I had this already, but I didn't, and so this is going to be great though, because it's got a ton of 80s tracks. Just a few highlights on the back that they mentioned: Holy Diver by Dio, I Wanna Rock, excuse me, by Twisted Sister, Metal Health by Quiet Riot, Heat of the Moment by Asia, Wrathchild by Iron Maiden, of course, 17 by Winger, Synchronicity 2 by The Police, No One Like You from the Scorpions, Caught in a Mosh by Anthrax. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. So cool to finally have this. Of course, now I've got a wired Guitar Hero 2 guitar and a wireless Guitar Hero 3 guitar, and so either way I'm going to be able to get my 80s on with that. And for the GameCube, I got the contents of Top Gun Combat Zones and the actual game of Burnout 2 Point of Impact. Normally I would pass on something like this, but the reason I went for it is because inside it is complete. So it's not only the manual, but it's also this little warranty card from Titus Software, who developed the game, and this little poster advertisement for this virtual Kasparov for Game Boy Advance, and then little Top Gun Combat Zones poster. So the fact that it was complete otherwise, besides the actual game disc, was reason enough for me to go ahead and pick it up, as inexpensive as they are. Burnout 2 is a fun game, so no reason that I would want to turn down a disc copy of that. And I'm sure I could probably source the actual GameCube disc for this somewhere online, Amazon, eBay, anywhere. So hopefully I'll be able to get that cheap. So that was Pawn Shop number 2. Third place I stopped was one of my usual game stores, and I picked up a few goodies there. And so the first one that caught my eye was my first Wisdom Tree NES title, and that is Exodus, Journey to the Promised Land. And I love how it's got instructions on there on how to start the game. That is just fantastic. As if most kids and people would not know how to do that during the era that this was released. So cool to finally have my first Wisdom Tree NES game. I have a handful of Color Dreams games, and then I've got a Wisdom Tree Game Boy cart, which I'll be doing a separate video on at some point. But nice to have that. I saw that they had Ren and Stimpy Buckaroos. Didn't have that one yet, and most of the Ren and Stimpy games are pretty lousy, but there's a hole to fill. And also finally picked up a copy of Solomon's Key. I don't know what took me so long. I actually had Solomon's Club for Game Boy first. But yeah, this is a good game from what I'm told, so we'll check that out. And then I decided to spoil myself ever so slightly and buy a game that normally I wouldn't spend as much money on to get, but I decided I finally needed to just break down and do it. And that is TMNT 3, The Manhattan Project. So very cool to finally have that in my collection. And then the one other item that I grabbed is a bit of a throwback for me. And that is Siberia for the Sega Saturn. When I first bought my Saturn, this is one of the games that I purchased used and owned and played. I played through most of the game, and because it's sort of an adventure action game, the action sequences are not fantastic. They're done well enough, but they're not very polished. And so the action sequences in the game can be somewhat frustrating. But it's an interesting game. It was certainly, I don't want to say ahead of its time, but felt a bit more like a PC game than a console release. Something that probably should have been controlled with a keyboard and mouse instead of just a Sega Saturn controller. I believe this also saw a release on the PlayStation. But as I got toward the end of the game, there was one action sequence that I absolutely could not get past, and I spent, I don't remember, 3 or 4 evenings or a weekend or something like that trying, and I just got so frustrated that this became a casualty of that time, and it was one of the only games that I've ever traded in as an adult, along with a couple of PlayStation games. And so, anyway, nice to have this back in the collection. Funny enough, for about the same price that I paid for it the first time, nearly 2 decades ago. So anyway, and it's in really good shape. So I may go back to this at some point and see if I can actually make my way through it and finish it, because that's one of those things that I always sort of regretted later, never stepping away from the game for a little bit and then coming back to it to finish it, rather than just getting frustrated and getting rid of it. So cool to have that back. So that was the game store. The next place I stopped was Best Buy, and at Best Buy I picked up Super Mario Odyssey. Very excited to have this, and yes, I know I haven't taken this out of the plastic yet. How dare I? But I'm actually working on a couple of other games. I'm not going to jump into this immediately. I'm trying to avoid spoilers as much as I can on Twitter and social media in general. So I'm not watching any live streams. And when I see people that have uploaded photos and videos, the photos don't bother me because I'm going to see it all anyway. But the videos, I'm generally passing over and I'm not watching them. And so I will be playing this one soon, but very glad to have this, and I'm looking very forward to giving this one a go. And the last place I stopped was GameStop. And I picked up a few things there. So I got one Wii game, and that is Wario Land Shake It. I already had WarioWare Smooth Moves that I got recently, but cool to have this. Looks like it actually follows kind of the same style as the earlier Wario Land games, just with the integrated Wiimote kind of control stuff for additional things. And so anyway, I'll give that one a go. I've heard it's good. We got Sonic Lost World. Finally picked that one up. I've heard conflicting reports on this. Some people say that it's terrible. Others say that it's actually pretty good for a 3D Sonic game anyway. Comparable at some level to, say, Sonic Colors or Sonic Generations in terms of quality versus Sonic 06 or Sonic Boom. So yeah, I'll give it a try. I'm not anti 3D Sonic. Finally grabbed the NES Remix Pack. I've been meaning to do this for a long time, just hadn't done it yet, and so I decided now was finally the time to do that. I also grabbed Darksiders 2. I had a digital version of this that I got via a Humble Bundle some while back, but I wanted the physical version, and when I saw they had a copy for very good price, I decided that it was time to pick it up, especially since I also recently got the first Darksiders game, the War Master Edition or whatever it was, of the first game. So here's hoping that Darksiders 3 makes its way to the Switch. And then I also got Adventure Time, Explore the Dungeon, because I don't know. I recently picked up the Finn and Jake Investigates game, and so now I've got the other Adventure Time game for the Wii U. And it was a pretty good price. Thought that was a reasonably good pickup. And finally, another Switch game that had kind of flown under the radar. I'd heard about it a little bit, but I don't remember when it was supposed to be released, and so it must be something that just came out, and that is Tiny Barbarian DX. And when I looked at the copy that was on the shelf, I saw there was a manual in it, and then there's also the sticker here that says freebies inside. But I got to give it up to Nicholas, who's publishing a lot of these smaller indie Nintendo Switch titles, like The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus, and I believe they published Cave Story Plus. almost everything is coming with something, with a manual and then also some kind of extra stuff. And so that looks pretty cool. 2D pixel art, and it says, "You are the tiny barbarian, a savage swordsman in search of treasure, a flagon of mead, and the warmth of a fair maiden by the fireside." So seems right up my alley. Almost looks like a little bit of a throwback to sort of Rygar or Rastan kind of a thing. And so anyway, it's my kind of game, it looks like. So I grabbed that. It was a good price, and hopefully that'll be a fun time. But that's all I have to show you guys today. Hope you enjoyed that. What in here would you recommend that I play immediately, outside of Super Mario Odyssey, of course, because that is going into the Switch post-haste. I'm real curious about Tiny Barbarian, and I also kind of want to put some time into TMNT 3, because I remember friends and I renting it when we were kids, but we didn't get to play it that much, or I didn't get to play it that much because I was busy that weekend, I think, with other things. And so I really only got to put maybe an hour or so into it. But by all accounts, it's a better game and more polished than the TMNT 2, the arcade game for NES. And so, yeah, looking forward to giving that one a go. But as always, thanks for watching, thanks for playing, and game on.